Okay, you're good.
Great. All right, so welcome everybody to the June 14th Ad Hoc Reappraisal Committee. We have Melanie attending virtually. We're anticipating Debbie and Dwayne to be here shortly. But in the sake of time, we will kick off this session. So Melanie, thanks for joining us virtually. Hopefully you're good. Yep. All right, good to see you. So for folks in the room, just a couple housekeeping items before we get going. If you guys need to use the bathroom, down the hall to the left, you'll see it. Just walk down that hallway. It's about halfway down on the left. We've got food coming. It's Taco Tuesday. Taco Tuesday, y'all. Got some tacos coming. Everybody seems to have water. There's treats on the desk. And make yourself at home, get comfortable. So before we jump into the agenda, I just wanted to take a minute. I know we had touched base on the ground rules and equity questions for a facilitation session. I just thought it made sense just to quickly revisit these. I'm not going to read through the ground rules. They're up there on the board. But once again, just let's adhere to those as best as we possibly can. And just quickly review the equity questions that we've been using throughout this whole process, just to keep it front and center. Number one, who will benefit, who will be burdened, what are the strategies to mitigate any unintended consequences of this action, and what data sources did you use to evaluate and answer these critical questions. So I know we're all relatively familiar with those, just don't want to lose sight of them before we proceed into the agenda. So with that being said, all right, so the plan for tonight, we are going to review and finalize the commissioner presentation. I sent that out to you all earlier this week. That was the PowerPoint presentation. Once again, can't reiterate enough that is a draft. That's the first pass at that presentation. So folks have ideas, thoughts, comments. We're going to have opportunity to address that, plug them into the presentation. So once again, that was a starting point, definitely not the ending point. In the email, I suggested that this is the committee's recommendations that you are going to be putting forward. It's our recommendation that the committee present to the commissioners. So with that being said, we'll have to talk about and align on a strategy around the presentation methodology to the commissioners. It could be one person, it could be a host of people, but we'll talk through that and align on that as a group and come to consensus. We also just want to quickly circle back on the recommendations, just make sure everybody's good with those. I know Sybil wants to take a few minutes and offer up some suggestions around some wordsmithing and some potential thoughts around questions that may arise from commissioners, just to make sure that we're all aligned on the same page in terms of the recommendations. And if those questions do arise, that we have consensus around how to respond to them. The other item we're going to take a look at is that Word document, which is that kind of overview document that outlines the process that the committee went through. The idea is that we're going to present the commissioners not only with that Word document, but some additional addenda items that we'll touch base on. So they have a packet of information that would help kind of tell the story of the past 8 months and the process that you all have gone through. We'll take a dinner break. And then once we come back from dinner, you saw the 2 sales ratio slides that were sent out earlier today. In addition, Keith's recommendations went out last night. Welcome. So we're going to take some time to go through those slides and then a word on equity initiatives from Rachel. Any questions before we get going? Okay. All right. So my thought is, in terms of the presentation itself, I don't know if you guys had a chance to review the talking notes in the presentation, but in the presentation I distributed you guys, there was notes in that presentation. My thought is I can walk you guys through the presentation in presenting what I think are the relevant talking points, and we can go from there if that makes sense. Or if anybody has another suggestion, I'm open to that as well too. Are we good to move forward that way? No objections? Okay. So what I'm going to do is
Not objecting. Do you have a copy of what we were, I printed it, but didn't have time to go back and get it, that you sent today and late yesterday?
I don't have hard copy, sorry. I'll get you a copy. I will put one. Thank you for that.
Two. Anyone else need copies? Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, so I'm going to present, right, in terms of you guys are the commissioners. So I'm just think of what I'm presenting as the content potentially that could be put forward to the commissioners, right? And this, like I said, this is first pass, unblanking the page, totally open to thoughts, recommendations for edits, additions, and so forth, right? So first slide, resolution and committee chart. So good evening, commissioners, and thank you for providing the ad hoc reappraisal committee the opportunity to present our recommendations. But before we proceed, I would like to take a minute to reflect on why we're here tonight. In September of 2021, the Board of Commissioners passed the resolution creating the ad hoc reappraisal committee and establishing the key objectives of the committee. The resolution states, read through it, just to once again get everybody grounded in the resolution itself. So once reading through that, so during our time with you tonight, we'll provide you with some high-level background on the activities of the committee since being created, and ultimately we'll share with you our recommendations that are based on our learnings over the course of our time together, as well as the diverse backgrounds and perspectives that we each brought to the committee. Introduction. Next slide is introducing the committee members. So the committee was comprised of a diverse range of individuals with varying backgrounds and perspectives. The members of the committee are, the presenter will read through this, potentially for the folks that are in attendance, introduce each of them. Jonathan Hunter is sitting over here, Ori Barber is here, just so that the commissioners can see your faces again, because it may have been a while since they had watched the video or since the committee was created. So introduction of the committee members. Next slide, how we got to now, right? So this is where we talk about some of the activities that the committee has taken. So the committee meetings covered a broad range of topics with a variety of speakers, all focused on providing the committee members a common base of knowledge in an effort to develop informed recommendations that address the elements of the resolution as well as the concerns of the community. Meetings were facilitated by county staff and an outside consultant. At a high level, some of the educational activities include, so talking through this, offering public comments at meetings. The opportunity to provide public comment at meetings allowed us to hear directly from residents on their concerns. There was a community survey that was administered, and that was another channel that enabled us to hear from a larger percentage of the community. There was a study undertaken by Geneva Economics to independently study the assessment process and the accompanying metrics. We conducted an assessment simulation exercise where we split into teams, and each team had a different household scenario, and we performed an assessment on the value of the home. We calculated property taxes, we filed an appeal, and we applied for exemptions. We also were able to have Rachel Edens walk us through the county's racial equity plan, and we heard from a variety of guest speakers. That then transitions into the next slide, talking about guest speakers. But before we go any further, everybody good so far? Good to keep moving? Okay. Yeah. All right. So this slide is kind of intended to give the commissioner just an overview of who are the folks that presented to you all, right? So As mentioned on the previous slide, there was a diverse range of speakers that the committee had the opportunity to hear from, all with the goal of providing a common base of knowledge for the committee members. Let me quickly walk you through the speakers and the topics that were addressed. So the presenter will just read through this, and Kirk Boone discussed with us the role and responsibility of assessor. He also talked about property appraisal methods and standards. So the idea would be just quickly touch on each of the topics that the presenter shared with all of us. Once again, this is providing context because I'm sure there's probably a handful of commissioners that haven't had the opportunity to watch all of our sessions. So just kind of getting them grounded in the process, right? The timeline of our process of kind of how we got to now. All right, next. So this slide is all about demonstrating how the committee addressed the items in the resolution. So this slide demonstrates the actions taken to specifically address each of the 3 resolution items. So to identify citizens' concerns. So this was achieved via the survey, the community survey that CAPE administered. There were 1,200 plus respondents that provided over 500 comments. In addition to the survey, we had opportunities for public comment during several of the meetings that allowed the committee to hear and understand community concerns. With regard to providing guidance on future assessments, the actual recommendations that we're going to put forward to you all provide guidance on enhancing the assessment process. And with regard to our input into equity concerns, there was an equity lens present throughout the entire process. And the recommendations, the county's equity tool was applied to the individual recommendations before moving them forward. We go with this? Okay. So then this is where we start getting into sharing the recommendations with the commissioners. So a couple key points that I think is important to illustrate to them is that, we had this sort of, if you guys think about the arc of this whole process, we had the first 10 meetings or 12 meetings, whatever the exact number is, was really geared towards education, right? And that's illustrated in the list of guest speakers. So the point here that I think is important to illustrate is that we had this sort of lead up to the development of the recommendations, and there was a very prescribed process, a framework in which you all worked to develop your recommendations, right? So it was very purposely thought through that process around how you all arrived at your recommendations. So specifically the talking points, let me just shift into presentation mode here. So once the committee felt that we had the necessary knowledge base on the processes, statutes, as well as community and equity concerns, we began the process of developing our recommendations. The process began with an exercise to establish the committee's collective vision for the future. Once the vision items were established, the committee worked through several other exercises to arrive at the recommendations being presented tonight. The recommendation development process was very purposeful and structured to ensure that all voices were heard, all recommendations were considered, and most importantly, there was participation from all the committee members. It's important to note that the intent of the committee's recommendations are to be more strategic in nature, with county staff to provide specific plans and action items on how to achieve each recommendation. With this in mind, allow me to walk you through the recommendations. So at this point, the presenter would talk about, okay, we define these broader strategic direction categories. So for example, in the first one, develop assessment policies to optimize tax revenue. Then you would just walk through each of these recommendations and talking about the details around it. So we felt it was important to really differentiate short-term rental investments and our secondary properties to assure more equity throughout the county from an assessment process, right? And then, we see that this potentially could require some lobbying efforts. There's clearly some statewide initiatives that would need to be taking place to facilitate this. So the idea would be then to continue walking through each of the recommendations and sharing them with the commissioners. So there's 2 slides that have all of the recommendations that you guys came up with last time we met. And then in terms of next steps, so we talked about this earlier. So the idea would be that, yeah, these are relatively high-level initiatives. County staff would then work to develop specific project plans for each of these initiatives, right? And the project plans will be used to define milestones, estimate timelines, identify who's going to do what, and highlight any additional funding that be required to execute on the given initiative. Once those project plans are pulled together, then they would be handed back to the commissioners to prioritize which of the initiatives we would move forward with first. So this is just, once again, providing some insight to the commissioners with regards to what the next steps in the process will look like. All right, so we are, good.
Will you go back to the grid?
Yep.
Does that look like this is the only thing right here?
I split it, so I split it into 2. So these categories, same, all I did was divide into to make it a little bit more easily read.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Fair enough. I just wanted, yeah.
Yeah, okay, sure, no problem.
Sorry, I noticed some squinting in the last meeting, so I was just trying to make sure folks could read it.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what.
Okay, so that's the presentation. Before we circle back with any suggested edits, let me just kind of frame this up. So we are on the agenda for Tuesday, July 19th for that commissioner meeting. It's going to take place during a regular meeting, so that's 5 to 7. Likely going to have a 15-minute time slot. So we've got pretty sizable territory to cover in 15 minutes. But just know, frame that in, we got about 15 minutes to walk through this presentation. And as we talked about earlier, you guys should be the ones, not me, not anyone from the assessment staff. I mean, these are your recommendations that you all have spent the past 8 months of your lives working to develop. So I think it's important that commissioners hear from you guys, the ones who came up with these recommendations.
You just did a really good job.
Well, I appreciate that, Devin.
I knew that was coming.
So unfortunately, Dwayne is not here. But I would like to open it up in terms of some conversation around how you all want to go about presenting this. We could have one person do the whole thing. We could break it up into sections and have different individuals present different slides. I see you guys nodding your head.
But we only have 15 minutes.
Yes, that's right.
So you don't need more than 3 people. Right, it gets a little clumsy after that. So I'm gonna volunteer to be one of the 3.
Okay, thank you for
I
that.
don't wanna sit here and stare everybody down.
I mean, I'm not the most eloquent speaker especially in larger crowds, but I'll throw my, if you guys, there's nobody else to do it, I'm willing to do at least a portion of it. But I will freely admit to cyber world and to this committee, I am not the best in a big.
But you will be that day. You'll be kind.
I mean, I can only give you what I got. So
You'll be fabulous that day.
So I'm willing to do that, but if there are other volunteers,
Oh, look at me and smile.
you're next.
No, it's said 2 people.
No, 3.
Yeah.
Maybe, but just not more than 3, because we only have 15.
And I mean, I don't know if Dwayne, if we want to, I don't know if Dwayne has a.
We could. I'll do the 3rd.
Okay.
All right, so I think I'm hearing
That's
Bob,
not let all of you off the hook.
Brenda, John.
That's right.
Sure.
We got it 3.
Well, and I wish Dwayne were here because he may want to join in. I don't know. So he might have lost his chance.
He can be the alternate.
There we go.
All right, fair enough.
Or he can take my spot.
No, we could.
All right, so for the three presenters, let's quickly just talk through if you guys have a preference of who presents what. So if you think about kind of like the flow of the presentation, right? We have this introduction, right? So talking through, kind of the resolution and, provide some background and context, a refresher for the commissioners, right? We then talk about the committee members. So from my perspective, and this is just me, these two slides kind of go together, right? So brief introduction, talking about the committee members. So you have one of you guys potentially doing those first two slides. Then we transition to sort of the how we got to now piece of it, right? Talking about the different activities that have taken place over the course of the meetings. That then transitions into the guest speakers and providing an overview of the topics that have been discussed. Those two slides sort of go naturally together in my mind. Potentially one of y'all could take those two slides, then.
Where are we? We're at 4 and 5?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Yep. You could potentially fold in the addressing the resolution items in there as well too. So, this one is kind of another potential, could be folded. This one could probably go with either the guest speakers piece of it, or you could include this with the recommendations. More than likely, I would see the recommendations, the two recommendation slides
By themselves.
taking the biggest chunk of time from a presentation perspective. And then next step, that's pretty straightforward.
Does the 15 minutes include questions from the commissioners, or would there be?
I think you're gonna need more time than that, beyond that 15.
So there could be questions.
That 15 is just a rough number to give y'all an idea. I mean,
That's how much.
yeah, we're not gonna.
Well, we just don't need a slow walk.
Yeah.
Get to the point. Yeah.
He'll get it, he'll have a copy.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Anybody have any preferences?
What do you, look up at the agreement. What do you feel comfortable with?
I can feel comfortable probably doing it all.
The recommendations, would you be comfortable with those two?
Sure.
If Bobby kicked it off. Well, I have to kick it off. I will kick it off. And then, now wait a minute, we're doing.
All right, hang on.
Slides 1 through 3, correct?
So,
Kick off.
yeah, so we got the kind of overview of the resolution, right, and why we're here. Introduction to committee members, right? Then we have the kind of the how we got to now. So this is what's transpired over the course of the past 14 meetings. That transitions into the guest speakers, right? And then we demonstrate how we've addressed each of these resolution items. And then we get into the recommendations.
Recommendations and the next steps will be 789. 10 slide. Oh, that's just information. So, yeah. So if I'm ready, you got 1 through 3. I'm 4, 5, 6.
Okay. All right, hang on, make sure I got this right. All right. So Ms. Bobette, you're going to be doing.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I got it wrong. I'm opening up.
You're kicking things off. You're doing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
forgot your stuff.
She's 1, 2, 3.
That's okay. I'm just, yeah.
So Brenda, you want to do up through the committee members.
Up through the. All right, that's not a lot. It's a lot.
She wants more.
Because there's 3 sections. He's doing 7 and 8. So Barbara and then I are splitting up. So I kick it off and go through. But you're saying how we got here now goes to guest speakers, correct?
1, 2, 3.
I'm just asking, I'm not making.
We can, sure. That's, I mean, my thought would be like, talking about so this slide, the resolution kind of like why we're here, really setting it up and then introducing the committee members, right? I mean, if you want to fold this, how we got to now in there, you could.
No, I just want to do, as much as my part. So 1, 2, 3 sounds fine.
Okay.
We'll do 4, 5, 6, and then Jonathan 7 and 8.
All right, so Brennan, once again, you're going to go to the committee members, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then Ms. Bobette, you're going to do the how we got to now, and then the guest speakers. Do you want to do this one as well?
I can, it doesn't matter. How we got that now in the guest speakers? I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry.
So after the guest speakers, there's a slide here where we talk about addressing the resolution items.
Right.
Yep.
So I think it goes.
That goes with the 7 and 8.
No, I think it's 1, 2, isn't it 1 through 3, then 4, 5, 6, and then
7.
me 7 and 8, the last 2.
But 7 and 8 is gonna need more time.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's why we're trying to not have you gotta go to the resolution. So we're just trying to give you enough time. I'm not gonna be long.
I'm trying to get your hand attack already.
I can talk fast. But we want to give you enough time so that you don't feel rushed.
Sure.
Right.
Yes. I don't have a problem talking.
I know. That's why I know you're gonna be trying to be shy. I don't know why you did that. You know you wanted to do it.
No, I mean, I really, I'm trying to be truthful here. I am not the best public speaker. I am terrible. So I'm just warning everybody about that. It's easy for me in a group like this. I can bang it
You're
out,
gonna be all
but
right.
yeah, I'll be fine,
Get
but
your
I'm
heart
just,
together before you do it.
I'll be good. But I mean,
Gotta give him some.
Go ahead and say-
Some more.
So it's a 1, 3,
I need something
Well,
stronger than that.
and then 7, 8.
All right, so who is doing this one? Sorry, I can't see slide numbers, so I apologize.
That's not bad.
Miss Bobette, okay.
Bobette.
Got it. All right.
I don't like being older. You have to go, yes, older.
That's one reason to be over. Miriam, we didn't keep you from doing anything, did we?
Oh, Melanie?
I'm sorry, Melanie, I can't read.
Yeah, you put your mouth.
I'm good. I support
Okay.
Bobette and Brenda and Jonathan. That's great.
Cool.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we're good. We've got, so what I'll do is I'll send you guys the notes, my notes. I mean, they're in the presentation, but I also have a Word doc I put them into just so you have them.
Okay.
I mean, feel free to wordsmith, edit, do whatever you want. I mean, these are your slides, so you guys own them however you want.
I'll own
Now, all right, any items that we missed, talking points that we've overlooked, anything you guys want to plug back into this?
Can you flip back to the first one? So let me take a look.
Don't get too caught up in, we're going to revisit these in a second. Sibyl's going to take that, but I'm talking just from a presentation perspective. Is there any high level content that we need to add? If you guys are good, that's okay. I want to give people opportunity to.
I think we're good. I mean, if nobody thought anything outright, I think we're good.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't compare, so just for transparency's sake, I didn't compare what we had come up with verbatim with what these recommendations are. So I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page and make sure that it is at least similar to what we have.
This is what we left with last time with that.
All right.
I didn't make any changes to it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. All I did was
I just didn't have a chance
do
to.
some formatting because we had started some stuff, so I just deleted some columns and this is where we left off.
Got it. Okay.
All right. So as we're talking about the presentation, so alluded to this earlier, part of, I think, getting you all prepped for this is potentially anticipating questions, making sure that we're all on the same page, Jonathan, with regards to the recommendations. Sybil is going to take a few minutes and just walk through some thoughts she has in an effort to kind of anticipate some of those questions that may arise.
And mainly, I just have some tiny wordsmithing on some of these to change. So if we can go to the next slide. And you guys can take these or leave them. So no offense if you don't like them, but I just thought I would share some thoughts. So just thinking about what Burnett had said originally about trying to be high level and not getting too much into the weeds and specific about process. There's just a couple of these that go a little bit in that direction. So I just want to point those out to you all. And the one that sticks out to me at first is the hire community liaison to provide education. So on that one, and when we're thinking about items in this column, we're really focusing on the what, like what we want to do and the high level kind of policy stuff, and less on the how we want to get to that policy, if that makes sense. And so the hiring someone is more about the how we get to providing education. And so my recommendation would be to kind of remove that part. The other part about that makes me a little bit nervous is, we would be working with CAPE. And so that's a community and public engagement, thank you, group. And so they may not hire a staff person, they may contract it out, or they may use an existing person. I doubt she would say that she could because she's understaffed too. But just to give you some clarity, like that is a little specific in terms of what, a recommendation in my mind might be. But again, you can leave it.
So you're asking that instead of that, we would just provide education.
Exactly.
Process. So I'm good with that. Yeah, I agree. So.
Can I say something real quick? So
sure.
That was my recommendation, and that's not entirely what I was after with making that recommendation in our small group. So for me, and I think I specifically said that it needs to be, while the CAPE team does a wonderful job, that person for me has to be an assessment or an appraisal specialist in order to explain the complex nature of these things and really be, and the word I used was ambassador rather than liaison. And so when I say ambassador, meaning somebody that's going to be out in the community every day, not in Keith's office crunching numbers, but actually like in engaging the community where they have specific questions around why does my assessment look like this? How did they come up with these numbers? And so while the education piece is important, for me, when I made this recommendation, it was solely around an appraisal specialist or an assessment specialist that's what they do, and they can speak at a high level as to what's going on, and help people. And so I think I even used the words where folks don't feel like there's an adversarial relationship, because oftentimes if you don't know what the process looks like and you go to Keith's office, it can be intimidating, but if somebody doesn't feel like that there's an adversarial relationship, that it's actually somebody there to help them along with through the process, I think that we'll have better results around that. And so that's my 2 cents. That's where I was going with it. But
okay. Okay. So for your suggestion, they'd have to be embedded in the assessment office. Is that what you're thinking? Or could they be part of the CAPE team, but she walked out.
look at this. I get to pay back all the, look at Evans and
That's why you get the special stuff.
No, I don't think embedded,
Okay,
but
that's not the key. Okay.
But I think the key is a high level knowledge of
Okay.
appraisal / assessment. I
And our
don't
market,
think,
sorry,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
and our market. I remember that night we were talking about that,
Absolutely.
not only make our market, know our market, but we also talked about, because the office can be something intimidating to some people, and we said, you know, we need someone who looks like that community to go out and talk to that community. I think if somebody, I don't know how we put this in words, but if somebody shows up to help them, no matter what community it's in, and they say, you know, well, who do you actually work for? Oh, I work for the county tax assessor.
Yeah.
You know, they'd still be intimidated.
So maybe we need some more details around the type of education and the type of outreach. And maybe it's more, you know, appropriate, culturally appropriate or something like that. Because that's kind of where what I'm hearing you say. And yours is around expertise.
Very
Yeah,
much
so
so.
those are the 2 key pieces I'm hearing. So just thinking through that.
But, you know, I just strategically thinking, I mean, if they were, and I don't like to use the word embedded, but I'll use that word because that's what you used. But if they were embedded into the assessment or tax department, you know, I do think that there's more ways to share some of the things that they're seeing and hearing out in the community with Keith and his staff, if they are in the same office, because they may be getting like real-time data, not appraisal assessment data, but data to go back to the assessment tax department and say, hey, listen, you know, this is what I'm hearing on a day-to-day basis, and be able to relay that stuff to the department. That may make the whole process a little more easy to. So.
And I think we also felt like, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, because when somebody has an issue, like a homeowner, they're talking to a specific appraiser who then can't do their job because they're spending the time doing that. So I think in conversation, we felt like if there was a liaison, somebody like that, I think I was the one to use that word, but whatever, that was their job. So when somebody in the community has a question, a comment, anything, a problem, there's one person that it filters through, and then based on the address, it will have to go to one of the appraisers. But I don't know, I think that we had hit on that too.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Can I just say that you and I worked on this at the beginning, at the onset, and his wording was not a liaison, it was an ambassador.
That's a great word.
And I think that was what we talked about, and we talked about the fact that not even me as a community member, it would not bother me or the people in my community if somebody from Keith's office came into our community. That would not intimidate us. It's just maybe traveling to your office that might, and I think that was what we were saying. We did somebody that could answer all the questions, that had all the expertise, even if it is from the office, to come into the community and to sit down and take the time to talk to people about that process, that knew what they were doing. I think that was, so our wording was ambassador. Because it was like a liaison makes it seem like it's
more distant. Yeah, an ambassador, I like that.
Right.
So what about, so provide an expert appraisal education ambassador.
But you have to put higher in there because you would know that.
We're gonna take that out.
I
We're taking that
out.
yeah.
And could it just be provide, community
Community
ambassador?
Mm-hmm.
And
I think expert, the word
Yeah,
expert community ambassador. Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Expert.
Yes, we want an expert. That's what I heard from Jonathan.
Yeah.
Ambassador.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You explained that better than I did. I mean,
We
you,
worked on this together.
yep, we did explain.
Okay. And then
Sorry.
that leads me to the next steps. So for me, from a staff perspective, instead of the funding, I think for me, the next step is to work with Kate to talk about what that is. Is that existing staff? Is that, can you train up existing staff? Do you need to hire an outside consultant? Do you need a new staff? So to me, that's the next step. Not necessarily funding required.
What box seven?
I'm talking about this next steps, actions.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
still in the expertise.
Yeah.
So coordinate with Kate.
Yes, and I think in another one we have developed project plan we have on Keys, there's developed project plan with IT, so I want to use the same language, developed project plan with Kate.
Yeah.
You don't like it?
No.
Okay.
I just want to be,
Again, this
I
is
feel
just-
like we can be honest here, and
Yes,
I hope
absolutely.
we can. And if y'all get to a point where you're like, enough, then
That's fine.
I'm not, I'm just,
What do you have in store?
Yeah.
because the way that we talked about it, at least in our group, was that it is gonna be, so I would rather it say, develop project plan inside the appraisal part, I'm sorry, I don't know what keys the, is it, the tax
Yeah.
assessment? Because I do feel like that's where the expertise is gonna come from. I don't think that it's a training thing. I don't think that you can take, this is just my opinion, but I don't think that you can take somebody that focuses on outreach and make them into somebody that is knowledgeable. Just as an example, it took me as a trainee in all the classes upwards of 5 years to be certified as a real estate appraiser. That's not something, in my opinion, that you can teach somebody in a month or 6 months to get them up to speed to be able to help folks in the community. I see this person as being very high level that is going to be able to actually help people in the community to come up with solutions. So I want to see somebody very high level that has an eye on the real estate market every day. They see what's going on, where they can tell people at the Shiloh Center if there's an event going on there and somebody asks a question, or if they're at the senior opportunity place downtown, or whatever. So.
But Jonathan, let me ask you a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm getting a little confused.
Okay.
It says to develop a project plan with Kate in conjunction, we can put in conjunction with our office. They're not hiring a person. They're working with Keith's office to do this, but we do that at the city. We have to put a communication plan together so that whoever the expert is or whatever the project is, we know how that's gonna get out of it.
Sure.
That's all we're saying.
Okay, as
So
long
maybe
as
I'm
we're not
not
getting,
making-
as long as it's not getting lost in the
No,
bigger
because you put
picture
over
that-
here, provide expert community ambassador to provide education on the appraisal process. So they're just gonna help the
Okay,
tax office to put together a plan to do that, right? You're gonna hire somebody with the expertise.
okay,
They don't do communication. right? So you gotta help them do that. That's a combination
Absolutely.
of communication team. Does that?
Yeah.
'Cause I think that's what he might be getting a little.
Yeah,
Okay.
I hear you, they
I don't
have
want
to
you to
be an
lose it.
expert, they
In my
can't
opinion.
be, yeah. And I think it would be incumbent upon Kate, and, you know, any communication person is gonna be in Kate. So I regret even saying it, vetting, they would have to be a Kate employee. But they, you know, maybe they can hire someone who has that expertise, or they could go out and hire an appraiser, or, you know, so.
I think part of the
That
process
to
too,
bring
like
the
I
point.
hear you loud and clear, Melanie. So like in terms of next steps, right? Like part of the process would be identifying skill sets needed for this individual, right?
Okay.
So
Right, and I think the expert word is key, because
Okay.
that's, yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks for
Okay.
voicing your
Yes.
opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just needed that clarity to make
I
sure
don't want
that
you to
we're.
stand up there looking crazy.
I was just gonna leave that, I was
We're gonna
gonna
go
leave that
down
one
like
point
that.
off and go right to the next one, like,
Yeah.
yeah. So,
But thanks for voicing your opinion.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
I want to be clear, like, y'all don't want to make these edits, and do not make them.
But let's be clear, Sybil knows the commissioner. So her suggestions are very helpful.
This is just a tiny one here. We can leave that, I guess, currently in place, but I do want to note for the presenter, which I believe is Jonathan, right? That we did have a conversation with building inspections, and we did already talk about some improvements. So don't sell yourself short. Make sure you say, you know, this is already, the conversation's already been had, and they've improved their reporting. So it's easier for us to do that. So just maybe a note to yourself, or put something in parentheses, whatever y'all want to do. So, all right. And then can we go back? So I don't know if y'all want to change that, or you'll just remember to say, hey,
either
our
way,
conversations have already led to improved reporting, or
Sure.
something like that.
Yeah.
So on this one, the question here was on allocate short-term rental revenue to fund homeowner assistance programs. I had the S on the end of programs caught me off a little bit, because we have one single homeowner grant program. So when I saw the S, I was wondering, were you guys thinking about other programs that help homeowners, like our affordable housing program, our rental assistance programs, or were you just focused on that homeowner grant program? Just thinking, putting my commissioner hat on, that might throw them for a loop too.
I mean, I think we're really centered around assessment and the tax department. So I would say that that's probably where the recommendation was headed, was just in the tax / assessment department. And so would be singular,
The one single program, that's what you're thinking? Okay.
I'm only speaking for me.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
your
speaking for the committee.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we have other
Yeah.
affordable housing programs that help homeowners. If your house needs a new roof, then we do that. So I just wanted to make sure we're,
Yeah, I just wanted, I was speaking only for me, so if,
No, that's
is
good.
that consensus
Good
today?
catch.
Okay, so, yeah. And then, another point on this one is and I think we would want to, put HHS homeowner assistance grant, just to be clear which one we're talking about.
I hate working off the touch.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You're doing good.
Okay.
HHS.
Assistance grant.
Okay.
And I might have to go back and make sure I'm
Right.
calling out exactly what it is, so after.
Grant program or something like that.
Homeowner grant program, sorry, so
Okay.
get rid of assistance, sorry.
All right.
Thank you, Kathy. I knew it was something about it, right? Okay. So, and then also on that one, thinking about what versus how. So allocating is more of a how you're gonna get to this policy, versus a what is more like supporting or support the HHS homeowner grant program. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
The allocating is how you would support it,
Right.
not the what you're trying to do. What do y'all?
I look at it as, and I know the words, and I appreciate it because I know the wordsmithing is very important. And you know that much better, I know, than me, maybe all of us, the rest of the table. But I think we really meant for it to be thumb pointed and red flagged and
Okay.
tagged and allocated. But there may be a better word than allocated, but I think we really wanted it flagged,
I feel the
right?
same way. I feel like we sort of said it needs to be earmarked for this. And of course, if it doesn't get spent for whatever, I mean, if not enough people apply for it, then it can be reallocated, I would assume, but.
Okay, so that's fine then. And then the only other just kind of point of clarification I would make is under the next steps here for that one. So for me, the way I'm understanding it is the line above, the differentiate short-term rental, that would have to be fixed first, right? And then you would have this additional revenue to fund that grant program. Is that correct? Is that, okay, so I think maybe, so to me, next steps is really referring up to the first one. And I would say it's more like depends on recommendation, or it depends on outcome of above.
Yes.
Versus will require legislative change to accomplish. Does that make sense?
Right.
Is that
And at the
thinking
bottom,
clearly?
changes in the legislation.
And that lobbying effort would be on that other page too, or on the first page, because there are a couple items on there that require lobbying
Yes.
in order to make.
And, right, and the one below it speaks to the legislative change, right? So, okay.
So we want to change it, says like dependent on outcome
Of
above.
or something
Okay.
like that. So that was just more like a process kind of thing. And then last one is really just this one. When I looked at this one, this looked to me, in addition to increasing capacity, it looked to me like there's a lot of like data, like improved data in that one. So it's kind of like improved data and increased capacity, something like that, to capture all of that together in one.
I mean, the heading on the far left?
Yes,
Yeah.
this one. Because you're talking about getting better data through a relist. You're talking about increasing the frequency of property assessments. That's also getting more up-to-date data more frequently. But again, take it or leave it, y'all. Do what you.
So repeat what you're talking about.
Something like improve data and increase capacity. Yeah. Jonathan, you're over there sighing, so you don't like
No, I think with those things that are up there, I'm fine with changing that, but for me, on those items, those things all come back to, there has to be increased capacity in that department in order to facilitate really any of those. And so I'm fine with adding whatever the group feels like it needs to be added there, but I do think that the drive home on that is going to have to be that those things don't happen unless there's a increased capacity. if I had to guess, I mean, I run a business with 25, 30 people and I know that everybody's stretched thin, and you start adding things like this, you have to increase staff and capacity in order to make that happen. So I just want to make sure that that's driven home, and I hope nobody cares on this committee, but that's probably going to be a comment from me if I'm presenting, and that has to be part of it. So if you don't want me to say that, then maybe not put me forward to do this part of
So
it.
we're not talking about removing it, she's talking about adding to it.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I think that
the key is, the important thing is capacity.
correct.
And then everything else is addressed and everything else is being said.
I think
So
that,
it's
yeah, I
wording
think
on
the
that.
data is the other thing.
I think that's what Jonathan, you're saying. It's, the capacity is the key and everything else is
Sort of.
underneath. It's already there.
That's my opinion, but
Oh, I see. So the capacity enables the.
Those other
correct,
things
The
that-
percentage of proproperties and
Yes.
increase the frequency.
absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
For me.
And I also think the word data would show automatically is implied or shows up in all of the other 3 or 4 headings. I mean, if permitting is talking better to tax department, we've got better data. If there's more educated and the realtors and the builders are talking back to Keith, that's more data. So that's where all that data comes from.
Sure.
So I agree, I don't think we need that one.
Okay, all right. That's it. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. All right. Folks,
I mean-
I believe we have a presentation.
You ain't getting out of it. We're not going through this conversation again. We're good.
All right.
No comment from the peanut gallery.
All right, so real quick, I just want to take a minute and just share this presentation. You guys all received this Word document. You had a hard copy of it, yes, last time we met. And I believe we sent an electronic copy of this. The idea is, I touched on this earlier, that we're going to present the commissioners with this Word document. Of course, you can see it. Hold on. Sorry. Screen. All right, so the Word document, so it basically provides an overview of the process that's taking place. The idea would be that in addition to providing the commissioners with a recommendation, with presentation on your recommendations, you would give them a packet of materials, right? And that packet of materials would include this Word document. It would include the comments from the 35-page Word document that has the 500+ comments from the survey. We would present them with the CAPE outreach plan, as well as a hard copy of the Sonoma report. Any objections to that approach? Okay. Very good. Excellent. All right, let me pop back to our presentation. So I think we are at a point for dinner. Dinner ready? We have food?
On time.
We are on time. Well, we're a few minutes over, but we're doing good. And once again, I'm not sharing the screen. Sorry about that.
I missed the rest of the agenda, what's up there?
Sorry, hang on one second. Let me pull that back up.
Oh, it's you.
What?
Oh, it's you.
Me?
You're on it. You're on the-
We got a couple. That's what happens.
All right, here we go.
No, I can't find it.
All right, y'all. So we are at the dinner break. portion of our program for this evening. So it's 5 after 6 now. Well, it's close to 10. So let's reconvene at 6:25.
Okay. One more question. Am I the only one that's really warm in here?
Yeah.
We can try to.
No, yeah, my feet are cold. I mean, I've been sitting here for a while. I took my jacket off.
Yeah, we're fine. She's the only one.
And you all right, we don't need to come on.
We're saying about your own personal summer, go right on.
All right, y'all, we got Taco Tuesday out in the hall. Don't be shy.
Melanie, we're gonna take a 15-minute break until 6:25,
I know they call it.
and then we'll reconvene.
Yeah, see you then.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Yep.
I mean, the good thing is.
Shocking. Almost there.
Yeah. Up there, Andrew?
How's it going? How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Really enjoyed your presentation. Was that like a few things or was it? That's
Yeah, definitely.
So.
Always. And then my wife and I
Request by one station, so it's not as simple.
Especially in that department, they are you can't throw somebody off the street. You just can't. I'm sorry.
Get talking.
I feel like something about that.
Good to see you again.
My in-laws live up north. I didn't do that on the soil all the time.
I was a tourist my first time here. I was a tourist. Yes, I have it. Actually, seniors. They had decided. Oh, I can't get over the beautiful accessibility, the parks here in town. I'm really, because I live on Maryland, we're very close to.
You doing some more issues?
No, definitely not. And people still do, like people work in the yeah, no, I think I remember my first time driving down and I was like,
That's not exactly what you were saying.
and it's, they're very, the dot is very clearly laid out. Laid out through it, slow it down. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it's going to look like. Oh, here's the link. There are. Okay, more. Yeah.
They don't know what it's coming. This is good.
How was that?
Okay.
I think it can, you know, so it feels like everything, you know, like the front door and the front door account, the shoulder. I got a house, and I'm like, but I got it.
All right.
I'm not living for it.
All right.
So wonderful. The Wild Resorts area related. They're building already.
Oh, really?
I haven't been down there. Now the beach is great. And the pool
Yeah.
So maybe I guess.
Yeah, we're going down to, so I live outside Jacksonville.
Well, no, it's not too bad.
You know, as long as you're close to beach, there's always a breeze. Yeah, and you know, we're just on Margarita Beach.
Are you gonna go with that?
Yeah. So it was kind of diversified. There was two different kind of groups. Like HHS had their own sort of analytical group, and then there was a county group. So that group came together. Like, so it's only been 4 years kind of this state that it's in now, but it's existed in sort of like this disjointed kind of. Oh, yeah, we did that. So, actually, you guys.
We're happy now. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's a large loss.
Yeah.
But
It won't be too far away.
We love it, but we need to fix it.
Where's Max Owen?
Historian arts.
Is he gonna be with, Matt or with?
Heather. Yeah.
Figured he would be with, Lee. We all need to just public safety stuff. You mean they didn't bring the plane today? Leo is bringing his plane. He doesn't have to get his plane.
Corey, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. enjoy this taco.
I know, man, right?
Where did this come from?
Mo.
Oh.
Cannot go wrong with those.
Okay, so here's the funny part, is I wonder if you really believe in what somebody come and talk about. You take one?
I wasn't down there. He wanted me to get up out of the seat. I'm sure that he was a good boy, right? Yeah.
Everybody that they were talking. Calm down. Maybe thought we were making a good presentation.
Yeah, I'm sure we're worried about the wedding. You
When
never
you don't
know.
show up for church meeting, you are chairman next time. I know that's the hard way.
This is my email or text or something.
I'm giving a call later.
I was about to say.
Well, one thing comes
check
with
in
it.
with him.
We shut down until the end of June. Then we had rally protocols. I'm not opposed or anything, but that's a good time to get back together. After 2 months, have no vaccination.
No.
So I stuck down. And I volunteered, but I was like, sorry. Start reading solid. I was like, there's a whole bunch of people in there breathing. And we did separate, you know, road at time, and then we changed the color on the road. It's spray down, but it's just,
Well, that's interesting.
you know, it
Yes,
is.
it is.
So was it like?
After, you know, after a bit of that. And I got really, some people were watching it, the kids with the money on that line.
And you can drink a cup, drink a coffee, get a snap.
Finish it my breakfast.
Oh, yeah. That's why I got in that church, because I wasn't already there. You know, we work all week, so what money do you get to sleep in?
That's interesting. I get on a plane, where it's like, hey, people sitting beside me.
You might have any fun, vacations for every summer?
You know?
Where you going?
Oh,
And
I'm kind of an introvert, so.
You guys have fun at all?
About 6 or 7 days.
Okay.
Oh, that's
When is
interesting.
it?
Maybe husband.
July 30th to August 6th.
It is not. So what's the end of July, what's the weather?
Well, there you go. I must admit, it's meant.
It's probably pretty good, they usually rain.
Oh, that is fantastic.
I don't know. And a friend of mine who lives in your,
Okay.
she says, I'm not going out with all the shelves and everything. Jackson, oh, cold.
Everybody else is
It's not hot.
During the day when I'm
It'll be nice.
I like it in my office. Was scheduled to go to one of the stop before during COVID.
Right,
So
yeah.
they had- So just went, her and others went, last week, week before. And they did unbeknownst to them, they were having a jubilee. And she said it was madness. And she was like, we had no, when we got there, things like, like sections of town were shut down. And she was like, and, I mean, they couldn't travel around, like, the zoo a lot because the zoos were shut down in certain parts of the, so, yeah. it was- Well, she booked it so long ago and then, when COVID hit, they booked her for like, you know, way out and then she just showed up ready to go and then they're like, you're, you know.
So that was crazy.
Yeah.
But I follow her on Instagram, Janet, and it looked like she was having a great time.
Yeah, she said she had a really good time. She did say that AAA Travel booked her in a really crappy hotel. And her and her daughter walked in the hotel room, walked right back out, was like, we're not staying there. Told them to there and they were like, you know, you can't do do anything, if, I'm not saying they booked another hotel and then are trying to get the money back out.
This was a travel agent.
Wow. You think they would know?
You stayed in a,
You think they would know?
Yeah, you would think so, yeah.
you stayed in a, Airbnb house.
Was it? Yeah. My wife and I are planning a trip to France for May of next, so next year in, literally like castles or chateaus for like $200 a night. And you're gonna pay more than that for a hotel, like a hotel in Paris or something.
That experience sounds awesome.
Yeah. No, really good work. We're gonna do all the alcohol, champagne, cognac, Bordeaux, and Burgundy. So,
How awesome. So that where are you?
Oh, no, my dad was playing. It's in the restaurant.
you just show up.
London or, you could definitely go to Westminster, you're right on.
She got the whole itinerary. She said, happy birthday.
You said just say,
My bag.
And you can take the train to France. Nah, I didn't do that, I wanna go back.
Whatever she wants.
Oh, that's all I wear. That's all I can wear.
10 years later, I'm thinking, well,
Don't push my luck. Don't push it, right.
I have a reputation. You do.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't hit the special.
Maybe my.
I know. I'm just saying.
Very small.
Apparently, people do.
You know, I'm smiling.
That's what exactly about to say. Being a flash, I smile.
All right, y'all, we're gonna go in here in 1 minute. As soon as everybody gets back. Get some more guacamole. More chips, more guacamole.
Ready to go.
Yeah, and it takes.
It's like our keynote presenter is fled. Our keynote presenter is fled. Key.
Oh, he gotta give him food. He'll be back, he'll be back.
Oh, is he going next?
Yeah.
These people give entirely too much food. Like, you order their food, you know, it's like, they fast family, way too.
Hi, Melanie, we're going to reconvene here in a minute. Miriam, if you're with us, we're just getting ready to shift into the next portion of our session tonight.
All right, I'm here.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, Miriam doesn't grab that fast.
All right, so next up on the agenda for tonight, we have a couple slides to share with you guys around ratio studies. There's been a lot of dialogue and discussion around ratio studies and really kind of two different approaches and methodologies to producing a ratio study, and really two different purposes intended for those different methodologies. So with that being said, there are a couple slides that we felt it was important to kind of share with you guys to kind of make sure we're all on the same page in terms of these different approaches to conducting a ratio study. So with that in mind, I'm going to turn the floor over to Keith, and Ori is going to join Keith as well too. So Ori, if you want to come on up.
Yeah, so what we're going to revisit this because we know that there still has been questions and there's still a lot of confusion that surrounds some of this. And some of the issues that have been talked about between us and Urban 3, and let me say this for the room, is that we have been meeting with Urban 3 and we have developed a excellent relationship as far as collaborating with them, helping them understand what we do, us understanding what they do, and where we're at on different sides of this. And it's not really sides, okay? We're in one world, they're in another world. And how do we come together and have a better understanding of each other? And that's what we have worked toward and actually I feel like I've accomplished. So what we want to talk about, and Ori and I are going to do this together, so please, Ori, he's welcome to speak up anytime. You guys are welcome to ask him any questions. But through this, we've talked about sales ratios many times. And I think where some of the confusion was that in the beginning, even with us, Urban 3 coming in and working with us, is that there's two distinct ratios that we can look at that tell us different stories. The first ratio, which you'll see here, is during the year of the reappraisal, from January 2021 through 21, we'll look at those sales transactions to see and monitor how the performance of the schedule values and the overall valuation methodology is working. Okay? That's important to me to understand what we did and where we started in the reappraisal and the things we built into the schedule values and things that's built into our system to help us with pricing and things is working. That's what this graphic here shows you. So when I look at that, and I look at this graph across all those sales transactions, you can see that it pretty much creates a flat line. You know, we have that is leveled out, which for us is success. You see from the top, the bottom values, 0.989 to the top, 0.987. So in the assessment world and mass appraisal, that is success, okay? Now, that's success of the valuation model, and how the valuation model works. In order for the valuation model to work correctly, you have to have good data, okay? And as long as I've been in this business, there's always the one thing assessors always will say to you is that good data produces good appraisals. Bad data produces bad, because that's just the way it is. If you do not have the complete data set correct, you're not going to get the output to be what you want it to be, okay? So the purpose of this ratio here is to test and calibrate the assessment model with updated property characteristics. So here's what that means. When a sales transaction comes through our office, our appraisers qualify that sale. And what they're looking for, we're comparing it to the MLS data. Square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, basements, you know, all the characteristics associated with that house. Do we have them correct compared to what the realtor listed? Now, the difference here is that I and our appraisers have never been in that house, okay? The realtors have been in the house. They know all the characteristics. So we get that data from them and put it into our system. Now, there are a certain amount of data, sales transaction that comes through, in which the data is incorrect. So, let's say John sold a house. 2 years ago, he finished the basement. Never told me he finished the basement. Never got a permit to finish the basement. I don't have the basement assessed. So when he sells it, I see that in MLS. I fix the characteristics to represent the property as it was, as it sold. Characteristic represents what the buyer purchased, okay? Otherwise, I would be saying that the purchase price was for something that was less there, Okay, it didn't include the basement, which is not true. So we update that data. And when we update the data, that shows us then that the valuation model is working when we update the data. So informs the value estimates for all properties in the county during the reappraisal year. So this is again a comparison for all those sales transactions that happened during the year of 2021. Compared, looking at the valuation model, is it working, and what are the ratios?
Do you only do that during the reappraisal year, or do you do that ongoing?
Ongoing.
Okay.
I'm going to get there. in a
Okay,
second.
sorry.
Okay, all right. So includes updated property characteristics of both reported and discovered updates. The methodology represents what was in the Sonita report. Okay, that's important because people have said, well, what's the difference in the Sonita report and the report in which Urban 3 presented to us? Those are two distinct differences in these reports, and what does that add? Sonita report used this ratio. They use this methodology to report on the performance of the valuation model. Okay? That's why you see a little bit of difference in the way Sonita reported it and the way Urban 3 reported it, because we were doing two different things. Okay? Urban 3 understands that, we understand that, we agree. There was two different things going on. Okay? The methodology is used to report to the North Carolina Department of Revenue during the reappraisal year. We use this methodology during that 21 year to report to the Department of Revenue because they want to see, the measurement of how the valuation model is working. Okay, so that's what they use it for during that reappraisal year. Aligns with, and this methodology aligns with the North Carolina Department of Revenue and the IAAO guidelines. Now, let's go to the second one. So this is the second ratio. After we get through 21, the North Carolina Department of Revenue says, now we want you to report your ratios to us after the reappraisal year in a different way. And that ratio says, what is the ratio before you made any updates to the property characteristics? Okay? That makes a big difference because you can imagine Jonathan sold his house. We didn't have the basement. He never reported it. And we have a difference now. Let's say $500,000 it sold for, we have it assessed at 300. Well, there's a reason that happened because we don't know that basement finish is there. Okay? So that creates a large difference in the ratios. Whereas if we had the basement, it will probably be closer to the $500,000 sales price. All right? We still make the updates in the data. We can just look at the data at the ratios before the data was changed to help us better understand what the overall quality of the characteristics are on these properties that are selling. Okay? So it's just a quick look at a ratio to say, this ratio, as you can see, same data, okay? But the characteristics were not updated. And the ratios changed to 0.845 and then up on the top end of the 1 million plus to 0.783. This is indicating that there's data here that's missing. Okay? Now, what we also talked earlier about is that out of all the sales transactions that happened in 2021, there was about 40% of those sales transactions that needed updates to the characteristics. Okay? Something was wrong. Could have been a bathroom missing, could have been a basement missing, could have been an air conditioner missing. Something was missing in that data. But I want you to remember, Seth, that data that was missing was on the interior of the home, not on the exterior. I never go inside. I had no way of knowing that this was missing until it sold, and the realtor gave us the information and the listing. We didn't know it was there. So we didn't have any way to list that. Statute says it is the property owner's responsibility to report that to us. Okay? So those property owners Jonathan finished his basement, it's a living area, but he never told us and he never got a permit for it. The law says he needs to report it. I can't go in there to see it. So it's put upon him. That burden is on him to tell us. What happens? Property owners don't report it. Because honestly, their taxes are going to go up. Their value is going to go up. Their taxes are going to go up. Although it is the most equitable assessment to get the data correct, because now you truly are paying your fair share of taxes on those actual characteristics that are in your home. Okay. So this ratio ensures also, this, the Department of Revenue uses this to ensure that public service companies are being assessed at the same rate of all properties. Okay, that's in a calculation that they do about public service companies.
What does that mean? I read that and I don't understand what that means.
So public service companies in the state of North Carolina are assessed every year. Okay, and public service companies are assessed based upon their complete valuation of all their components within that corporation. Okay, wherever they may be.
Or whatever somebody like Duke, are we talking about somebody like Duke Power?
We're talking about Duke Power, you're talking about airlines,
energy or whatever.
You know, gas companies, you know, these type of things. So what those public service companies want to know is that what is the level of assessment in the years we're being assessed? Because what the statute says for them is that in the fourth year, after the fourth year, is that if the ratio drops below 85%, this ratio drops below 85%, after the fourth year of a reappraisal, they get an adjustment in their assessment level, okay? Another reason that we have always been on a 4-year schedule for reappraisal, because if you wait till after that, then the county could lose revenue because the ratio is being low, and they're going to get an adjustment in their value, okay? Department of Revenue uses that as part of their calculation. Reflects the effects of unreported property characteristics on the assessment model. So again, this ratio reflects the fact of what data has not been reported to us for assessment. Okay. Now, Ori and his team put together some numbers, and make sure I'm telling this right, Ori. Out of the 2,500 or so sales transactions in 2021, he has determined through changes that we made in that data that there was about $96 million of value that we added to those 2,500 transactions of unreported characteristics. All right? So let me finish this. The methodologies used to report to the Department of Revenue does not include findings from MLS, Alliance with North Carolina Department of Revenue, and out of below guidelines. So why am I telling you this? Because what's important here for this committee, and you've already put some of this in your recommendations, is that what do we do? What recommendations do you give? What does our Board of Commissioners grab a hold of to say, we want to help you make this data better? That's the question. Because Ori and his team, Ori's clearly said to me, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, so if I don't tell this right, I'm saying it, is that if the data is correct, the methodology is correct. The valuation system works. You saw that from the flat line. Urban 3 has stated that, correct? Yes. When the data is not accurate or we're missing characteristics, is where the numbers start getting skewed. And that's where you start seeing this curve. And what this curve then is also telling you is that the curve is telling you that the higher end properties is where we're missing most of the characteristics, because that's where we're changing more of the properties. It's down here in these upper end valuations, correct? Now, we've talked about reasons around that. You know, higher end properties, they probably do more renovations. They add more stuff to their properties. They've got new kitchens and bathrooms more often. then maybe the people down here in the $250,000 range. There's more renovations going on the top end than the bottom. So it really does all make sense, okay? But there's clearly, we have come to the conclusion and agreement with each other is that there's not anything wrong with what my office is doing. Evaluation methodology is correct. It's the fact that when we're missing data, it skews those numbers and creates this curve, which could be creating a larger tax burden from one end to the other. Does that make sense? So I'm also going to present this to the commissioner because I want them to understand it. Because in the very beginning, this curve and the data was kind of what started this whole committee. It's because when we started talking about the lower end properties were overassessed compared to the high end properties, what was actually being said, I think, and again, Ori can confirm this, what was actually being said is that the data was more correct on the low end than the high end, which means more accurate assessments are happening on the low end than the high end. Okay, not that the appraisers are purposely over assessing the lower end versus the higher end. It's just the fact of how the data is incorrect from one end to the other. You agree? Absolutely. Okay. Now, is that about really confused everybody?
No, I get it.
Does it make sense? Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll go back to, going back to the other.
Okay.
Real quick, before you have an answer to that. I have a couple of comments, but you want those now, or would you like to ask your question first? Yeah.
I just want to make sure everybody understands this. So when you were saying that Jonathan finished his basement and just didn't call you up and tell you, it's also because he didn't pull a permit.
Right.
So if it had been that he was redoing the basement or whatever the upfit was, he didn't pull a permit to do it. So that's in those numbers right there, right?
If there was a permit that was taken out,
Then your office knows that.
we know about it.
Okay.
The story that we're trying to tell you here is for the ones that we don't know about. Okay. Now, it's not also that the property owner doesn't just take out a permit. There's a lot of things property owners can do. They don't need a permit. You can renovate a bathroom, you can renovate a kitchen, and you don't need a permit. Okay. But if you start finishing a basement and you're putting in electrical and plumbing and structural things, you got to have a permit for that. You're adding living space to that. And that's where we miss a lot, because think about it. If you're one of our appraisers and I visit your Jonathan's property and we're only allowed on the outside and I walk around the outside, I'm going to sometimes I will have a very different, unless he has an exposed basement wall that I can see in, then I don't know. I can see there's a basement there because I can see the windows, but I can't always tell which living area. So, is that answer your question?
Yeah, no other question. I just want to make sure everybody knew that wasn't the only reason if he did that and didn't pull a permit.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay, go ahead, Or.
I think Keith has explained this very well. I have a couple of interpretations that I think I would like to offer because they make, when presented side by side, these two sales ratio approaches make a really strong business case for additional resources for Keith and his team. And so I want to walk through that a little bit. So the way I interpret this first curve is exactly what Keith has said, which is with better data, we see great performance in the valuation model. I'm on board. What we need to think about in order to produce this, right? This is, Keith, chime in at any point in time, roughly 5,000 transactions, right? All of which had a real estate agent go inside the home, validate that information, produce that information, give it to Keith's office. Keith's office is able to go through, curate that data, clean it up. That 5,000 homes. Unfortunately, the remainder of the housing stock isn't getting that same sort of treatment, right? So we're proving the case that with good data, good outputs. I'm
weary about concluding that this is the performance for the entire assessment model, which is what the second curve shows. I want to go back and emphasize what Keith said, that between 2021 and 2022, simply because of unreported data, Keith's office discovered $96 million in unreported value. Meaning that's $96 million that was not taxed appropriately. That's roughly $450,000 a year out of 2% of the housing stock. So what this says is that if we were to go through and clean up the data as best as we can, there's actually a financial return on doing that. So that could provide Keith with additional staff and resources to move us in that direction, cleaning up the data. So to me, it's kind of 2 points. One, we end up with cleaner, better data that produces some return for Keith and his office potentially. And two, we're correcting an issue that may be creating additional burden on the lower value spectrum. 2 points taken together that unless we look at these together, we don't see that outcome emerge. So again, Keith and I are on the exact same page, and that's really the only additional interpretation I would offer.
I think that's great assessment. I mean, I think that puts a dollar amount to the potential. And the only word I can use is income. And I don't know how a municipality phrases that, but that's additional income, and there's revenue. There we go. Yes. So that's additional revenue, and as you said, that's a net gain of XYZ percent, because if Keith's team is able to hire more people to, as you put it, clean up the data, then let's say that there's, 50% of it goes out to pay more staff and more programs, but then you've got this other 50% of revenue / income that comes in that you're like, oh, well, we've got to realize new revenue or additional revenue stream that we didn't have in tax year 2021 or whatever. And so I think that's a great way to put it. So you're now hired. You're going to be doing my part on the presentation. Yeah.
So look, I want to go back and emphasize that. Again, this is what we are calling non-reported characteristics. Not necessarily unpermitted, not necessarily something that our appraisers miss, non-reported by the property owners, okay? Which which is creating what Ori and I are showing here, okay? Now, because the property owner has the burden to report, I want you to remember 2 things, and that is that property, Jonathan finished his basement, never told me. I found it. He could be liable for up to 6 years of back taxes for as much as 60% penalty for not telling me that. Okay. So there is some teeth in the statute that tries to say, hey, property owners, it's your burden, and if you don't do this, then you could have to go back and pay for those prior years. There's, dependent upon that happened, it can go back to as much as 10 years that we can go back and get value that, what we call value that is escape taxation. So again, the statute gives us sort of those abilities to do that, and it happens. Sometimes it's big, but property owners just need to understand that, and this comes back, I think, to some of the things that are in the recommendations about educating property owners, helping them understand this is what you're supposed to do. This burden's on you.
Realtor association, right? Because that's the way you clean that data up. I mean, so.
Okay. All right. So I just been cognizant of time. We've got a couple more items to talk through.
Okay, or anything that you want to say?
I spoke in my piece. Thank you.
All right. Keith, don't go anywhere. Next up are your recommendations that was distributed to you all last night, I believe, or this morning.
So, what's that? So a couple recommendations that kind of tags on to this committee's already recommended. And this has got to do with the education and the outreach. And what I would like to see from us is that we build what I term as a one-click hub in our website that any property owner can go to. And if you want to appeal, you want to see a map, you want to see your taxes, you want to see the building permits, anything that's related to your property that's going on, you can get from that one hub, okay? You can, one click will take you there and you can see it. It is a little bit cumbersome at the moment. You have to click through a few different pages to get where you want to be. I think one of the goals that we should have is to develop a plan with our IT department and others to improve this. Because as we educate, then we need to help people come back to this, easily find what we're talking to them about, so we can move forward. And some of the folks will say to you, well, I didn't know you were missing that because I couldn't find it, or I didn't see it on property record, or I didn't know how to read the property record. You know, there's some things like that that we can do better. So that's one of the recommendations I'll suggest that we tag on. Improve the data quality. We've been talking about that. So conduct a campaign to increase the accuracy of the property data. This is to help overcome what we have just been discussing, characteristics that is not there. So conduct an extensive analysis, leveraging GIS and appraisal data. So I'll tell you one thing there that we already have scheduled is that we have a product called Change Finder that we do on flyovers. And that Change Finder is one of the reasons why we have such good data on footprints, because that Change Finder finds footprint changes. Jonathan added his addition onto his house and never got a permit for it. When we do that flyover, that's going to tell me. Don't tell me what he's got inside, but it does tell me that the footprint changed. Implement an AI software solution to enhance the accuracy of assessment property values. So here's what this is, artificial intelligence. There's products now available to the assessors, and it's currently running in a few of the larger counties across North Carolina. And the company did a pilot on our data and showed us some feedback. So what this is that Dwayne said one night in a meeting, you got to take the human out of this. Okay? You remove any potentials for bias or any of that when you take the human out. That's what this product does. It takes the human out. Because the computer and the machine learns from the data that's in our system what's important, makes those sales prices, teaches itself what's important, and starts valuing the property. Okay? Every night, the system gives me a new value on all 130,000 parcels in this county. Okay? Now, why is that important? I think it's a tool for the appraisers to make sure that they have correct data, if there's not been something missed, that they're truly, if there was ever a chance for something to be biased, it would show up. If there's something that, you know, that the computer looks at and saw that we didn't see, then it's going to tell us that. So every night, a new value gets pushed into our system, and the appraisers can do a comparison to say, what is the AI value versus our value? And if the spread is too much, then we need to figure out why. So it's also like an audit tool to help us, again, do better and a better job and take the human out of it. Questions about that?
Good stuff.
I've just got a quick comment. So I totally get the AI situation, but I start to have nightmares about this. Is that you've got people like Zillow, for example, that thought that they could put a value on a house, and they did that for years, and then they were like, okay, you know what? We're actually going to be what they call an iBuyer. They go out and they put a value on a house based on AI, and then they go buy this house, and the person sells them the house, and then they go buy another house in a different part of town or in a different city, and then Zillow eventually goes on to sell this house. Well, guess what? They were wrong. They were totally wrong, and they've lost their behinds on it. They have ceased those operations. And that was all based on automated valuation model. And so for me, I would rather see, because I'm assuming that type of program is very, very expensive. And while I think it would be good, and I want you to, if I want you to have that, if you think it's going to be advantageous, but I still do think that boots on the ground is going to be our best way to clean up that data. And maybe Ori's got different perspective on that.
Question. Yeah. So this AI software that you're proposing isn't to replace your existing procedures. It's a background.
It's a tool. Check. It's just a tool.
Great, yeah, totally fine. Like like you said, if it gets out of whack with your model versus what this is, then you start to ask questions. And so totally fine with that. But I'm still a boots on the ground type of person, and I'm hopeful that I would hope that you would put something on here, but if you don't want to, for whatever reason, fine. But I do think that, for me, I think that increased capacity is going to help the appraisal department clean up this stuff that you and Ori are agreeing on, and it's going to be, it will pay for itself essentially if I'm understanding what you said and what you've said. That there's going to be a return on that if we're able to clean up the data. And that seems to be really what we're all talking about now is just, I mean, that's where we've gotten, I feel like, is the cleanup of the data and making it ongoing, making it more.
So there would never be an intent to replace any of that with something like this. This is just another tool that runs on the side of what we do, sort of as a checks and balance kind of thing. I will tell you this, out of the pilot program that they ran for us, they tracked our values on 5,000 sales transactions within 3% where we were at on the value. Okay, in the graph, you can see that they tracked us within 3%. So there were nothing in that pilot that just kind of spiked here and there. I was actually pretty amazed on what a great job that it did. But no, I agree with you. It's not a replacement for people, because boots on the ground still is one of the best ways to do data collection. Sure. It's just more of an audit tool to find issues of which may be there.
Okay, quick time check. Hold on 1 second. 7 o'clock, everybody, we've got, has one more item to touch on, and we also want to give Rachel a few minutes to just quickly, a few minutes there. So just to make sure everybody's comfortable, staying there a few minutes.
Yeah, we're good.
We're good?
We're good.
Okay. All right.
It's the last meeting.
Okay, last one, reevaluate tax districts. You've heard us call these neighborhoods, okay? These are really market areas. Neighborhoods is really the wrong terminology. It's a terminology that has been carried on for years over years over years over years. But it's really a market area that we're defining. Now, you have saw maps of these areas in which we have drawn out and we've delineated for different market reasons. West Asheville, North Asheville, South Asheville, this street, that street, wherever we found that during that time the market was showing there was a difference in the reactions of the buyers, we were separating those in order to do better valuation. That's what it's about. So these need to be, all 2,500 need to be looked at. But it comes back to the same thing you said, Jonathan, is that we do a certain amount every reappraisal, but sometimes you just don't have the capacity to take on such a large project because there's so many other things going on. So this is one thing that I am saying that needs to be done, and we're already discussing it internally on how we can accomplish that and what that needs to look like. So I think
should that be a long term?
I'm sorry, what?
Should that be a long term?
Well, long term, I think means that we need to do it between now and 2025. It's not like it needs to happen in 30 days. It can't happen in 30 days.
Right.
So I think we left it as long term. Know that listen, we need to start on it, and basically we have 2 years to finish it to get to 2025 reappraisal.
Okay.
All right. Questions?
Folks virtual, any questions for Keith?
I don't have any questions. I just want to tell him I really appreciate this discussion, and it really clears up a lot for me and also makes me feel really confident going into the future.
Good, thank you. Excellent. All right.
Can I ask?
Yeah.
Can we, would the committee be interested in voting to support Keith's recommendation to present to the commissioners?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to ask if you want to make a formal.
I make a motion that we accept assessment staff recommendation as provided on said screen.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Any opposed? Folks virtual?
There.
Yeah, okay, so.
Well, we have
Yeah,
5 in here, so,
yeah,
okay.
We're good.
But you're good with the wordsmith. Have you read it? Wait,
Yes, I'm fine with that. Thanks for asking.
She wordsmithed it.
oh, you wrote, she wrote.
She's already done it. It's already her product.
So we're adding you are adding to our education line, and you're creating a new box of data, improved data quality. Is that correct? Got it.
I worked with that. I worked with that.
Thank you.
So I think just to be clear for you all, so Keith, the intent is for Keith to present these as they support you guys, but they're different than the process you all arrived at to.
But the commissioners would know that we voted to have those
Yes.
incorporated.
Absolutely, yep.
Agreement.
Yep.
I know you called time a second ago, but I have a question on,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Can you go back to the slide where we developed, it's the very first one, develop assessment policies to optimize tax revenue in our recommendation chart. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be backtracking, but I was trying to compare kind of what we talked about last week or last time with the new notes. And I want to read that. Were we, this is a committee question, were we talking about, because I marked it out on mine, differentiate short-term rentals, investments, and/or secondary homes assessment approach from that of a single family used as a primary. I thought we talked about taking out the primary and second and not making that a differential issue. It was just the investment and rentals. What do y'all remember?
I mean, what I've got is treat short-term rentals as a business with a progressive tax.
Right.
Short
term, but not the, if I owned a home in Lake Kiowee, South Carolina, and Asheville, are you taxing my Asheville home higher just because I have another home in South Carolina? That was our conversation at the table before this, and I'm not sure that that says it, but I think it's comparing, and maybe the committee wanted to do it that way, but I'm not sure.
I mean, I think we talked about specifically short-term rentals and investment properties.
Exactly.
Right.
But that's in my recollection, but yeah.
So how does that read? That
It
we're
talks
also-
about secondary, like a secondary house.
I would vote that we change that, but unless I'm reading it incorrectly.
We did.
What?
I couldn't see that far. Yes, you got it on the paper there.
Okay.
I'm sorry, time's up, Debbie.
Maybe it'll go all night. Now it's
Wait, somebody virtual said something.
Go ahead, Melanie.
That was me. I thought we did last time have a discussion about adding that secondary home. Because we talked about, well, what if you're, because we talked about out-of-state owners. So I distinctly remember adding that, or, as a group adding that secondary home designation, but if,
But I think what I'm hearing you say, oh, sorry, Melanie. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I think what I'm hearing you say, your concern is that if you live here in Asheville and have an investment property in South Carolina, your primary residence here in Asheville, you should be taxed as a resident,
Yes.
right?
Right.
But isn't, if you look at like the last few words, doesn't that kind of encompass that, or?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Does that say that to the world and the commission? So if Babette and I lived next door to each other, but she also had a house at a lake in South Carolina, should she and I be taxed the same on our North Carolina property? Yes. And that's my opinion is yes. So, but is that saying that?
So I would say, I think it does. And my recollection from the last meeting was, because you all spent a good amount of time on that bullet, right?
Right.
I think where you all landed was, there was still some challenge they all were having of getting to specifically how you did it. But where you got to an agreement was, a primary residence in Duncan County should be treated from a different type of residence. It would be up to staff and to the board to determine the details of what that would look like. But where you all came to an agreement was they should be treated differently. That was my recollection of where you all got to at the last meeting. So that conversation of kind of how detailed to get.
If you guys aren't happy with this, we can change it. So
I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it.
I mean, it basically says, if I live here, all of us live here, we're taxed one way. If I have a second home here that I use as a short-term rental, we talk about progressive tax, to tax it as a business, depending on the level of business.
That doesn't say that.
If you're renting it.
If you're
renting it,
Right, but this is saying.
That doesn't say.
That if you just, let's say your primary residence is in Charleston, but you've got a house in Asheville or in Candler that you come to as your mountain house.
And nobody spends the night there.
And you don't rent it, you don't make any money off of it, but you come on the weekends to stay at your mountain house. That is saying that would be taxed differently than
Why does it say that? Because it says differentiate short-term rentals. We're not renting. It's just not secondary.
Read the very first one, different short-term rentals, investments, and/or secondary home assessment approach from that of a single-family home used as their primary residence. I don't think that was
So you're
our
saying it's going,
intent.
the intent was not to just tax somebody more because they have a secondary home.
It was about them making money off of it.
Making money off of it.
Right, an income producing property.
Okay, this is Melanie again. So the conversation that we had was, I thought it was prefaced by a discussion regarding the South Carolina's law or the way that they tax. And so that's where I think that came from. But I'm fine I'm fine with removing it if the intent was for only income producing properties.
Well, I think that was sort of what Urban 3 had gotten at as well, was if they're income producing, then they should potentially be treated as a business per se.
Right.
So as a solution, so if we said differentiate short-term rentals and or investments from that of single family homes as primary residence. So basically get rid of that.
Secondary home.
Yeah, right, yep.
That's what I had written down that we said when I was marking out what was there and adding what we said. Differentiate short-term rentals as a business and then assess the assessment approach from that to single family.
Use this permanently. Yeah. That's fine.
Don't look at me, she words it. But I mean, if,
fine with that.
and if I'm off base here, that's how I read that. Is
We're not,
that-
but we've been reading this for 3 meetings. And so,
No, that wasn't up there
No, this
before.
is new.
That's brand new.
didn't you say you gave, say the last meeting was the same stuff?
Nope,
You've not,
that's different.
hold on, I'm asking him. Didn't you say it was the same information?
This, yeah, this
from
is
last
where,
meeting?
this is where we left off.
Okay.
I didn't make any changes to this after we left.
He said
After
the
we
same.
left last time, I made no
If
changes to this.
the intent was not to tax secondary homes, I'm fine with that.
Not to take up more time, I am in favor of keeping secondary homes in this
I mean, I was-
description, but
I
I
know.
will defer to the committee.
That's the only thing.
Okay. I would like to see.
You wanna see it that way? I do too.
All right, well, I mean, the only way to move forward is to take a vote. I mean,
Come on.
yeah. That's quick.
If you can afford a secondary home, you can afford the tax.
Sure,
Thank you.
that's fine, that's
Thank
fine.
Sorry, I mean,
I'm just
it's
saying.
different if you're making money off of a business and then you wanna be taxed as a primary residence, but if you can afford a secondary home, I have friends with 2 and 3 homes, they pay taxes different than they do on their primary residence.
Here,
They don't in North Carolina.
South Carolina.
Oh, it's
South
South Carolina,
Carolina.
okay, right.
Well, I can afford a second home, but I don't think,
Well, that's okay.
It's okay. It's okay. It's okay.
I like my current one. Okay.
All right, so
Okay,
think I heard a vote.
Yep.
we're
Right, all
done.
right, so to make this simple, who is in favor of leaving that as it's written right now?
I am in favor of leaving it.
In favor of leaving? All right, so we have
Did you put
4 to
your hand up?
leave.
No, you're not in favor.
I'm leaving it the way it is now.
So Melanie, you are in favor of leaving it as is?
Yeah, just an opinion.
I'm in favor of leaving it as I see on my screen right now.
Okay, all right, so there's 4 in favor. How many are interested in changing it?
Is Miriam up there?
Miriam, are you with us?
There you go.
There it is. See how easy that was?
4 is have it.
Yep.
Okay,
All
fine.
right, thank you guys. Okay, last but not least, I would like to turn the floor over to my esteemed colleague.
And I promise I will make this very quick.
Don't feel like you have to rush, we're good.
Oh.
We're good.
As long as you don't let Debbie
It's still deadline.
You don't get to ask me anything, but as you can see, there's nothing else on my slide. It just says equity issue. So, I mean,
Oh, that's it? That's one slide?
this is all I got to say. I got some things to say, but this is it. So there's not even any content. I just wanted to share with everybody, first of all, thank you so much for having me as a part of your conversations and of this work. And so what I really wanted to speak to tonight is the third point in the resolution about maintaining equity in the work that you all are doing. And I just want you to know that not unlike Keith and his team and how they'll continue to work on this as staff, I and my team will also continue to work on this as staff from an equity perspective. So, Keith and Rebecca and Lisa and Gregor and the rest of the team, they have very specific pieces to move forward on that we talked about as recommendations. Over the course of this process, not that we wouldn't have ended up working together anyway, but we had a really good opportunity, even to work together and talk about what equity looks like, not only in this process, but across everything that he does in his department and his team. So I want you to know that this isn't the end of this. Also, in my office, we have an equity and inclusion work group. That work group is the work group that supports the work of the Equity Foundational Focus Area and Strategic Plan. So that work group is charged with every action that's in the Racial Equity Action Plan that I shared with you all very early on, and also any other equity issues that come forward, either generated by a board or commission like this, or from the community, or any of our residents that live here. That's what we're charged with doing. So it doesn't just stop at racial equity, the same way that this didn't just stop at racial equity. So I just wanted you all to know that we'll continue to work on it from that perspective, and also the same way that Keith's office is open to you all, my office is open to you all. So if there are things that are related to this, or any other issues or other committees or boards that you all sit on, I just wanted to invite you all to keep in touch and
please let me know if there's anything I can ever be helpful with, particularly if there's a board or commission that you need some information or some support on, and I haven't been brought in specifically, please know that I'm at your service and disposal as a steward. So also, I just wanted to say that tonight's meeting was really wonderful and encouraging. I'm so happy to see this coming forward. I'll be excited for the meeting in July, and I'm hopeful about where we're going to go forward. So that was all.
We appreciate your input.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you. Right. And that's it.
All right, also, unless there's any other additional comments or questions, I believe this concludes our meeting, which, final meeting of the ad hoc committee. So,
I forgot to be steering today from downstairs.
so real quick, before I let you guys go, so the next steps, what we will do is send out a meeting invite placeholder for you all for that July 19th meeting, so you have it on your calendars.
It's like 5 or 5.
5 to 7.
Yes, 5.
5 to 7. Send out the updated presentation that we reviewed tonight. I'll send out my speaking notes for you folks to feel free to tweak and use as you will. If there are any questions between now and the 19th, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or anybody else that's been a part of this process, and we'll do what we can to help you guys. And, you know, for me personally, it's been a pleasure working with you all. It's been a journey that I've learned a lot along the way. I hope you guys have too. And, you know, you guys should really feel good about the recommendations that you're putting forth to the commissioners, because there was a lot of blood, sweat, and toil that went into those. What's that? She's good. Yeah, she's doing good. So she is planning to, last time I spoke to her, she will be there on the 19th.
She'll be down 19.
Yeah, yeah.
Or now, just.
I'll be there on the 19th.
Oh, you're gonna be there?
Yeah.
Okay, I was thinking you had plans.
I will be there on the 19th. What I won't be a part of is the internal, our review meeting.
Can we plan drinks after the meeting on the 19th?
Maybe not.
How about
Let's go dance.
Oh.
Yeah, let's do it.
Did I say that in the open meeting? I didn't do that. I'm not telling you the boy, I can say that.
I better turn this live stream on right now before it goes any further.
Exactly.
Thank you, Melanie.
They didn't hang with us that long, it's fine, people were flat that long time.
I mean, for real.